Hello all, yes, so it's the end of August 2020. Here's the Bombardiers. So this one here is now done. Really nice, totally sweet bike. And I'm using that bike there as a comparison in order to fix this one here. So you see, I just removed the battery, and obviously flip the bikes round so they're kind of opposite each other, so I can see whereabouts bits and pieces go, where the wiring goes, all that sort of stuff. I can then measure up things like the fuel filter, the hoses which were missing, so I can order the correct 6 or 8 mil hoses. This one here, so bits and pieces on this one here, for example, this just falls down, so it's had a bad repair because it's snapped in half, and this should actually be bolted onto here. So I'll just do things like that. Now I know this falls off, I'll put his bolts back in again, drill those out, put a spacer between these, some sort of rubber spacer, and then that's on, and then that can stay on. That's job done. We're missing things like the air filter. It's also things again for the owner's information that this piece here is cracked. It's just literally just resting in place. That should twist on, so it's just sort of snapped cleanly, obviously a long time ago. So yeah, things like that aren't great. As I say, missing a bit of the foam, otherwise you've got the bits and pieces there. Looking down here, we've got lots of sort of cut off wiring, removed wiring, so I can see where all this goes. There's meant to be at least one relay and stuff here, and various other connections, so we'll see what's in the box, but it's looking like we're missing again more bits and pieces. Someone's sort of half removed this, so I'll put it back on again with the right mount. Actually we have got some part of a filter here, or a full filter, but we'll look to probably replace that if it's knackered. Got this here, let's say probably should go on to something. So there's a relay there. We'll see where that goes. And go from here, and again it's the same sort of scenario up here. Just sort of lots of cut wires here. And so these are different, as you can see. So either earlier ones or later ones, or completely the wrong ones. So yeah, let's see what we can do with that. Mileage, we've got 4,109 versus 800 on this one. We have got the seat for it as well. It's got a couple of sort of tears in it, or some repair work done to it. Fuel tank, which I've washed out and cleaned out. Just cleaned up the fuel pipe system, so this all looks good. Put it on with some used, it's missing the bolts for it, so I put on some Allen key bolts here and some correct sort of crush washers here, along with some blue sealants. So that's all good. And we've got the mount actually on this one, which is quite nice, although they are a bit on the piss basically. So we'll see what we can do with that. And we have got the fuel cap, so that's good. We've got the chain for it. Got some action, so we know that this is in the wrong position here. It's obviously missing the bolt here, so I'll take this in here off and put this in the correct position and find out why that's in the wrong position. If it's just because someone hasn't put the bolt on, or if something's wrong with the splines, we can have a look. Take the carburetor off, clean that, take off the cover here at some point, probably next week I expect now, and see what the oil pump situation is like, because there is a brand new oil pump that looks like, from what I remember, that could be the right one. So yeah, bit of work, but it's all good. Excellent, cheers. Yep, so here's video 2. So I spent pretty much most of this today on the bike. Starting to come together now. I kind of realised really that effectively this was a rolling motorbike. That someone had put the engine in, someone had put the wheels on, and that's it. Pretty much, So the engine, yes, was in there, but nothing was actually bolted on properly. Most of the bolts weren't even there, or they're not even in the box of spares. The wheels just on very, very, very loosely. Nothing was lined, nothing was done, nothing was oiled or greased. The bearings as completely dry as a bone. I think the guy obviously just started it and realised I couldn't be bothered, and just put the wheels on. Rested the exhaust in place. That was kind of it. You know, even things like this has taken ages. You know, putting on this steering dampener. You know, the guy, you know, fair play, probably in a rush or forgot or whatever. You know, he just bolted it on. He just bolted this on. You know, with a couple of these. You know, but luckily I've obviously got this bike here next to it, so I can identify the bits and pieces that go on where. You know, so I think it's a case of, for us, it's a case of getting this bike working and see if it works, and then if it does work, then obviously, you know, John the owner can decide what he wants to do with it. You know, if he wants to, you know, minor things, but you know things like painting this, you know, painting the brackets up here, you know, get some new exhaust mounts here, that kind of gist, you know, replace, you know, scabby nuts and washers, that sort of stuff, you know. But for now, it's just a case of getting it running, see if it works. One thing I noticed that this part here appears possibly to have been sort of squeezed shut. And also on this bike here, that there's a pipe going from it, going under the fuel tank and then down there. So I don't know if that's maybe possibly a breather pipe, or is it a case of you fill this up here and it goes down to here. But I've got a feeling for some reason that the oil goes into the frame, I thought. You know, that's what, yeah, it comes out of here, yeah. So maybe this is a breather pipe, overflow pipe, possibly, maybe an overflow pipe. Yeah, not sure. We'll check out what that is and find out, because obviously it does appear to have been squeezed shut. And obviously if I probably try and unsqueeze that, you know, I don't want to risk breaking anything, so it might be better if we need it to cut it off with a Dremel, then put a new piece of pipe on rather than trying to unsqueeze it, and chances are, you know, and then maybe breaking the whole thing off. Okay, so the wiring loom's roughly in place, carburetor's off. Gonna have a look now at doing this. Hasn't got a stand underneath. This is now back on properly. I tightened up sort of various bolts and stuff like here. This is all looking pretty shitty. So it's a combination of slightly bent and horrendous. So I'm going to get my Dremel out there, clean all that dirt off, and then obviously hold this and then try and release this sort of locking nut or whatever this is here. I'm guessing this here probably should turn, you know, with your fingers, I expect, to adjust the brakes. So we'll get that off there. This is just off. This is just in place loosely. So the wiring loom is now sort of mounted in the rough position. I started to connect up the earth cables that I know about. Connected up this properly. This plug on the bottom here. This sort of ECU or whatever this is, or in, you know, spark. Is it CDI? Something like that. Whatever it is. That plug was absolutely, looked like the person who just dipped the whole thing into a ton of shitty, greasy oil and left it. So yeah, got all that crap and shit out of there. That's absolutely horrendous. Carburetor's off, cleaned the top, etc. I'll clean the carburetor in a minute. So as I said earlier, the fuel tank is over there. It's now dried out nicely. Can't hear any noises in it. All looks good. So that can be fitted once I know about this pipe here. If I know if this is a breather pipe or whatever it is. So we can get the fuel tank sort of back in place, which I'd like to get in. I'm going to go and clean the carburetor in a minute. I'm trying to get rid of all the really shitty jobs out of the way today. And I say I'm going to work on this now as well. Cool, there we go. Oh, and something else to point out, this has been repaired exceptionally badly. And really, this piece here is obviously snapped in half. It's really badly repaired underneath there. It's quite knackered. I mean, I don't know, obviously if these happen to be common, I would definitely suggest getting a new one of those. Obviously if they're not common, yeah, we have to live with that. We'll live with that. Cool, okay, let's put this to it. So it's very handy that we've got a really nice one next to it to compare against. And actually I've noticed things like, you know, like the mud guards are different and stuff. So this is quite different from this one. You can see it's much different. So yeah. Cool, excellent, cheers. Yeah, so video 3. So this is what this is you know, a bit of a problem. So we've got the new oil pump here, which presumably just unscrews their gasket, drives the pump inside there on this, like that, and then these pipes here connect onto these various settings here. When they painted this engine, they put a screw in there. That's where the oil pipe should come down from here. down to into here, and then into here, and then into one of these. I think it might be this one here, I think it was. And something like that goes to there, and that goes to there, something along those lines. But they've snapped off. They snapped off. That snapped off inside the casing. It could be a big problem, because this is obviously magnesium. That might be very, very difficult to drill out if it's the entire length of that. That's where the cable goes when you accelerate. Operates the carburetor and operates this lever here. So that's pretty bad. We've obviously got someone's snapped that in the past, and they've welded it back together absolutely horrendously, and they welded it onto the splines at the wrong angle. I'm not sure what the reason is, but they welded it at this angle here rather than sort of up here like it should be. So that to me appears like a complete and utter bodge. And this is how it should look. So you see, should have that part there, obviously oil pipe going in there. That shouldn't be a problem, because I can probably just remove that. Going into here, obviously there's no cable at all. Need these pipes. So that's that part there. And obviously this is how it should be looking here. So we need a new one of these, new kickstart. Plus these pipes and bits and bobs, other bits and pieces. We're missing things like the springs on the other side. There's one spring which is just about holding it together, but we're missing both the springs. We need another pair of those as well. Horrendous. So yeah, there we go. But yeah, that's definitely a key part. So I'll talk to John and see about this, because obviously that is a key part. Yes, we can connect up these, but obviously unless we drill that out and get the cable, then that's critically important. Okay, yeah, because I guess we have got part of a cable here. Yeah, so you've got the cable obviously that goes to the carburetor. But I believe it splices off, into the cable to go into here, I believe, which isn't there. Okay, cool. Right, that's the end of day one, so it's looking pretty good. So yeah, I need to talk to John and see if we're going to progress with this or not. But basically, yeah, I've got the front mudguard on properly, fuel tank and all in properly, exhaust on nicely, excluding these two here, which are fairly mullered but solid enough. This is all bolted on properly. Plastic covers are in place, etc. All these are footrests and gubbins around underneath all that section there, including this panel here, all the brackets around this section here on the other side to hold that stand in place, the accelerator rod and brake rod, all that sort of stuff, that's all in place. Carburetor's been rebuilt, absolutely spot on. Wire and loom's been put in the right place. All this sort of stuff here has been put back on properly. So that's all good. Fuel tanks in, just loosely held in place. So parts we 100% need if we're going to progress with this motorcycle is we need kickstand, so the kickstarter here. As you remember, previous video, it's been welded on, and obviously it's snapped by the previous owner as well, so it's doubly bad. So a complete cock up, but splines look average, but probably savable. New fuel pumps there, because we've got nothing in there apart from this joiner here. Now I assume this has just been added to stop oil getting in there, as opposed to being some sort of cheeky little modification. But I believe we would just undo these screws here, replace those potentially with long bolts, maybe a gasket on there or two, who knows. Missing one of the bolts here as well. This part here is a key part that's snapped off into the magnesium case. Potentially tricky to drill out. We'll have to have a look at that one and see what we can do with that. This is where the oil pipe goes, and we mentioned that's been blocked. We're also missing the various oil tubes that go in there. We're missing the oil tube to go around to the tank up here. We're missing the double accelerator cable, so obviously it's got the wrong handle here. It should sort of go down into one cable and then splice off into two cables. So we've got one cable going onto the carburetor, but we haven't got the other cable which goes in via here to operate the oil pump. So yeah, we definitely need new cable, and whether or not this is even compatible, don't know. We also need the push. We also need the brake rod here. That literally, I say lubricated, I cleaned it, as you can see by the fact that it's black and clean, but just snaps straight off, just absolutely knackered. And also you can see as well that there's only half of it left anyway, so it should be an entire piece. So that's pretty bad. So that's that. We obviously haven't. We've only got one. We've got one brake light, no indicators. That's fine. I mean, I assume this is off this motorbike, of course. We haven't got the air filter here. This piece here, which you mentioned earlier, you can see it's cleanly broken in the middle. It's pretty muddied as well. I've ordered the battery, I've ordered the oils, the 2-stroke oil and the engine oil, because there's no oil in there as well. Or I should say, when I removed the drain plug, nothing came out. I didn't say tip over, I should say. So there might be something in there, but clearly not much in there, if there is anything in there in the first place. And there we go. So yeah, we definitely need quite a number of bits. Cool, cheers.